It's going to be an interesting day in Parliament today as we continue live from Sandton, just north of Johannesburg. Government officials once a year are required to disclose their business interests in order to ensure maximum and absolute transparency. And today, the Joint Committee on Ethics and Members' Interests is publishing something which normally garners a great deal of interest. It's called the Register of Members' Interests for 2017. Let me take you live to Cape Town. Lester Kiewit, our parliamentary reporter, is standing by to talk to us, and this always brings with it a great deal of interrogation and interest. Lester, good afternoon to you. Just remind us, first of all, what exactly does this register set out to do?
Well, Jeremy, this is essentially government or Parliament being transparent in the interests of MPs. Of course, we want to know in which, if MPs have any business interests, any personal financial interests, particularly in the work that they do. But there's also obviously the fun side, the more interesting side of what gifts get given to MPs. We do know that at many times that MPs are given quite interesting gifts, everything from bottles of champagne, whiskey, to jazz festival tickets, to Persian rugs. These are all obviously gifts that are received particularly by ministers, but it's all good and well that they receive it. It's whether they declare it or not in Parliament's register of business interests. We do know that many people obviously would want to curry favour with particular ministers, would like to get some influence particularly into some of the policy work that they do. So the Register of Members' Interests is essentially to cast that light on what gifts or whatever interests MPs receive. And obviously they say that sunshine proves to be the best disinfectant, and it's using this Register of Members' Interests to provide that transparency, not only to people in government, but also to the media and obviously to the public out there.
Lester, how do we know there is full disclosure in this respect? Are these disclosures audited? Are they investigated in any way?
Well, this goes through a long, almost year-long process, which the Ethics Committee, comprised of MPs here at Parliament, that they go through. It's incumbent upon MPs to deliver the interest to Parliament in a timely manner. And if they don't disclose fully, there's obviously a severe transgression, and they could be severely censored by Parliament and the Ethics Committee. This is a serious infringement that members could do. But at the same time, many in the past few years, the Ethics Committee under Amos Masonda, the current chairperson, has said that he is quite satisfied that MPs had declared on time, and that there's not been in recent years any major surprises coming up. But what is interesting is I'd be quite interested in going through the new Deputy President, Didi Mabuza, trying to figure out what he has declared to Parliament, obviously going through the interests of the leaders of political parties in Parliament, and also particularly senior cabinet ministers. They often declare quite interesting gifts in that respect. But Jeremy, I want to bring in my colleague Annika Larsen. She just has the Minister of Transport here. Annika, seemingly over to you.
So inelegant. I'm so sorry to cramp your style. Minister Nzimande, thank you so much. He has agreed to join us, and he's on the run because you've got another meeting. I'm so sorry to keep you waiting, sir, but we have just been before the Transport Portfolio Committee. We've been hearing about PRASA, and to quote your words directly, Minister, you said PRASA has been doing everything but provide safe train transport. Just give us a few of the highlights that you've discovered since you've taken over as Transport Minister.
Look, there have been very many good people who are still there at PRASA, but at senior levels, I think that we've actually had challenges. Because
All right, so we'll get back to Annika Larsen and Lester Kiewit in Cape Town in just a moment. Apologies there, we seem to have lost that feed. I am hearing that we might be back. Yes, we are. Yes, we are. Let's go back.
was worried that press was not challenging some of these cases that actually require literally hundreds of millions from the organization. And yet, at the same time, the trains are not running on time. We can't deal with security of the trains and sometimes passengers and even drivers. I know it's hundreds of millions that is spent on security, but you can't see the results of that and what is going on. And it's been business as usual. That is why I felt that it looks like PRASA had prioritized everything else except its core function and its core role, which is the instruction I've given to the new board. It's early days to say, lay a foundation to be able to turn PRASA around.
They've been 8 months late in tabling their 2016-2017 financial report. It's now come out that they have underspent by almost 5 billion in the first quarter. Just explain to our viewers that underspending can be as bad as overspending.
It is very bad. You know, in fact, the total amount of cash reserves sitting with PRASA is 14 billion rand in a country which is infrastructure, by the way, for CAPEX. And it's money that could have been spent to create jobs. You are a country with very high levels of unemployment. Of course, the president now is emphasizing the issue of investment, including investment into infrastructure like PRASA would do, which is very important in terms of creating jobs. I have also said to the new board, one of the early things we've got to do is actually a strategy to invest, to expand. There are so many problems also, you know, that are with our metro rail system, for instance, that require investment in infrastructure and getting more train coaches, you know, and all that. So I'm very concerned about the fact that we can have so much money sitting there that have created so many jobs.
The new acting chair, Kanyisile Kweyama, is known to be good at stabilizing. That's what she did at the SABC board after the cloudy days. How do you think she is going to try and root out the rot and create some kind of stability? And when will we have a permanent board?
Well, I have got a lot of confidence on Kanye. That's why I appointed her as chairperson and also given her experience. Of course, we are not expecting everything from her alone. She will provide leadership, but the collective that I have appointed, I've got confidence that they will be able to work together such that they are able to actually begin to deliver results. As I said in the portfolio committee, I had a real dilemma for how long this board should be appointed for. Especially also there was a planned parliamentary hearing into PRASA, which tends to give you a better insight as to what kind of a board do we need.
Which hasn't happened yet. It's that inquiry.
No, it hasn't happened, you know, and I think now I will have to move towards preparing the ground, you know, for actually appointing the board for the full term. It is a board which has got all the functions of the board, except that we said it will serve for up to 12 months. Ideally, I would like that the PRASA board and other boards that I appoint them for the full term, that they actually have to operate.
Just last question, you go into this new portfolio of transport. It's one of the it encompasses some of the state-owned enterprises. Did it take you to have to go inside to see how bad the damage was or is?
Look, there are some very positive things, by the way. Some of the state-owned entities of the Department of Transport are doing fairly well. If you take SANRAL, for instance, okay, it's being blighted by the e-toll issue, but SANRAL is one of the most well-respected agencies, you know, in our country. If you take an organization like the Air Traffic Navigation Services, you know, we actually can see aeroplanes landing in Cairo just from our watching station at OR Tambo International Airport, you know, at Kempton Park. I can also mention a couple of other organizations. Indeed, there are those that have got trouble. AXA has got its challenges, but they've been building beautiful airports and actually managing airports. They are now beginning to be helping in other countries like Brazil and so on.
Do you want SAA?
Do I want SAA? Well, it's not my decision. I wouldn't be able to say so now. I mean, that would be the decision of the president, essentially, and the macro organization of government.
And you are meeting the Finance Minister and the Minister of Public Enterprises about
Yes,
SAA?
I'm planning to meet with them as soon as possible, as soon as our diaries converge, so that we can discuss SAA. I'm not responsible for SAA, but many people do not believe that. How can you be Minister of Transport and say you can't tell us about some of the things that are happening at SAA? As well as with Minister of Public Enterprises to discuss other matters relating to the management of ports, especially the issue of the relationship between Transnet and PRASA. That's another issue that we have to deal with. But to say there is good practice and good things does not mean that there aren't problems as well.
Thank you so much, Minister. I appreciate your time. I know that you're going to another meeting. Best of luck is what I can say. Thank you so much. Jeremy, I'm sorry to have been so inelegant and cutting in like that, but it was an interview that we were waiting for, and I think that 5 billion rand underspend by PRASA in the first quarter is a pretty serious indictment on what's happening at that rail agency. We'll be back with more with Lester when we go live to that members' interests briefing with the Ethics Committee.
All right,
Back
Annika Larsen in Cape Town, thank you. And one word that we could never use to describe you is inelegant. Thank you very much indeed.